welcome to the first Toolbox Tuesday session of 2024. And what better way to kick it off than to talk about inclusive contracting? My name is Anna Van, and I'm an associate regional planner here in SCAG's Inclusive Economic Growth Department. I'll be providing a brief intro today before kicking it off to our amazing fellow presenters. While we introduce this session, I encourage you to introduce yourself in the chat. Let us know your name, pronoun, and where you're joining in from. So just a few housekeeping items before we get started. All participant lines will be muted. And if you have any questions anytime during this session, please feel free to put your questions in the chat. There will be a Q&A session at the end. And finally, this meeting is being recorded, so the recording and the slides will be posted on SCAG's website, and everyone who registered will be sent a link with the information. So at this time, I'd like to offer a land acknowledgement. We are currently on the occupied and unceded land of Indigenous peoples who are and have been caretakers of the land in this region. I'm calling in from the Chumash Gabrielino land, and if you haven't already, I encourage you to visit this resource to learn a little bit more about traditional inhabitants of the land that you live and work on. Now I'll be launching a poll. We want to know who's in the room today. So this is an opportunity to introduce yourself, let us know where you're calling in from, and share a little bit about your experience related to contracts and procurement. Let me get started. So you have to scroll down and you'll see there's 3 questions total. Give it a few minutes. We're at 72%. Okay, so I just close the poll, and you can see the results here. We have good representation from local government and regional government, some from the county, and we have also our private sector folks represented. Most are from the SCAG region, and also some joining from elsewhere in California. And we have 45% of folks who are project managers, and then some contracts administrators. So for those not involved with procurement or contracting at all, welcome, and we hope you'll still find this information very relatable and useful. Oh, I was not sharing the results. Okay, well, my apologies, but yeah, here it is. And then without further ado, I will kick it off to our manager of the Inclusive Economic Growth Department here at SCAG, Victor Nancrete.
Thanks, Anna, and good afternoon, everyone. Very happy for you to join us this afternoon and take a little time to learn about this important topic and a little bit about what the Inclusive Economic Growth Team at SCAG do. As Anna mentioned, my name is Victor Nagadete. I'm the manager of Inclusive Economic Growth, and along with Anna, we are leading the implementation of a series of recommendations from the Inclusive Economic Recovery Strategy, which was a report that was adopted by the Regional Council of SCAG in July of 2021. And it includes a number of recommendations that were developed in collaboration with stakeholders around the region around workforce and economic development topics, really with the goal of recovering from the immediate recession and that followed the COVID-19 pandemic and the shutdowns, and to ensure that as we did so, that it would be in a more inclusive manner than in previous recoveries from recessions and economic shocks. And I recognize that many of you may be familiar with SCAG's work, especially on Connect SoCal, the Regional Transportation Plan, and Sustainable Community Strategy, or with other resources such as our Regional Data Platform or Sustainable Communities Planning Grants. But part of the goal of today's Toolbox Tuesday is to inform you a little bit about what we're doing with a one-time grant that we received from the California Workforce Development Board with the support of State Senator Susan Rubio to implement recommendations from the Inclusive Economic Recovery Strategy. And so in a second, I'll be sharing a quick video. I think it's just about 5 minutes, which really provides an overview of the Inclusive Economic Recovery Strategy work that we are leading here at SCAG. And then from there, our partners at HRNA Advisors, Jill Schmidt and Bengochea will be walking us through the deliverable that we're talking about today, the Inclusive Contracting Toolkit. And what we hope you take away from this Toolbox Tuesday is an understanding of why this work is important, why it matters, and some of the specific recommended immediate actions and strategies that are included in the toolkit, as well as get to hear from some of the leaders in the region on equitable procurement, including the Port of Long Beach, the County of Orange, SoCal Edison, and Children's Hospital of Los Angeles. We have, we're very grateful for their participation today and sharing their own experiences in implementing this work within their organizations. And so, and then at the end, we hope to have plenty of time for discussion and both the SCAG team as well as, we know our partners at HRNA would be glad to talk about anything you might be interested in. And so next I will share this video. And after that, we'll be joined by, again, Jill Schmidt and Bengochea from HRNA Advisors to walk us through the toolkit. Thank you.
The Inclusive Economic Recovery Strategy was born out of this realization there are disparities in our society, in our region. And specifically, as we were coming out of COVID, it was very clear to all of us, we needed to make sure that the recovery did not leave people behind.
These disparities have major impacts in our communities, especially our communities of color. We're talking about health inequities, educational inequities, workforce development. Everything that we need for our communities to succeed are still being dragged down by these inequities.
The reality is, because of the inequities as an economy, we're actually underperforming. That economy thrives on equal access of all people to the resources in the regions. It's real people that are affected by marginal access to opportunities, whether it's education, jobs, or healthcare. That access that they don't have is actually a drag on the economy.
We need to create an economy that works for everyone and no one is left behind.
So our role is to open up opportunities to those who are marginalized or systemically marginalized over time.
We could set a framework that will help future generations thrive and succeed.
How do we make sure that anybody from any walk of life, from any ethnicity, have equal access to those opportunities? And so that was one of the things that we wanted to do, to help our local jurisdictions to provide that access.
This is not just for this generation, but leaving that wealth of knowledge and inclusivity for future generations to take advantage of is so important.
Apprenticeship programs are a valuable resource because it just expands their knowledge of what is out there that they can learn. And they will eventually graduate with a 4-year degree and become a manager, become an engineer.
Kind of leverage the skills that I picked up at school and use it in the workforce while gaining, essentially starting my career.
Up to this point, most tribes they've had to rely on existing sources in terms of data. And without having good data and reliable data and updated data, it's real difficult to plan. So the work that tribes are doing in conjunction with SCAG not only benefits tribes generally, but also benefits the local region. And that's why we're excited about developing analysis and service with SCAG, because that's really needed for tribes to plan for the immediate and also the distant future.
One of the opportunities that we have is helping marginalized communities to have access to government contracting processes. And so that was one of the things that we wanted to do, is to help anybody that's an entrepreneur or from any walk of life have access to it. At SCAG, we want to make sure that we have a prosperous society for all people.
Together with SCAG, we can turn everyone's dreams into reality.
And so if we get it right, we will be inching towards that high objective of making sure that economic opportunities are available to all.
Thanks for the introduction, Victor. Hi, everyone. My name is Jill Schmidt-Bengochea. I'm a director with HRNA Advisors, a public policy, economic development, and real estate consulting firm with 6 offices across the country, but I'm based here in Los Angeles in the SCAG region. And I personally focus my work on equitable economic development, neighborhood planning, and major infrastructure and public realm plans. And as you heard today, our firm was thrilled to work with SCAG on this effort to increase contracting with small and diverse businesses, with a focus on public agencies and anchor institutions in the SCAG region. As Victor walked through, I'm going to share a bit more about the approach that our firm took to developing the inclusive contracting toolkit, including then our understanding of the barriers to and benefits of equitable procurement that are outlined in the toolkit, the insights we gained on emerging best practices and opportunities to increase contracting opportunities for small and diverse businesses, from conversations with leaders both in the region and nationally, and preview some of the recommendations and tools in the toolkit, which you can access online. First, just to bring us all on the same page, what is equitable procurement? We define this in the toolkit as an approach to acquiring goods and services that addresses barriers and biases to ensure all businesses can fully participate in the procurement and contracting process. When a person's identity, their race, their ethnicity, their sex is no longer predictive of how they fare. And we'll get into Proposition 209 as part of this webinar, which ultimately says that a person's identity cannot be part of the criteria in their award of contracts. But this is just really important to highlight that it also shouldn't be predictive of how they fare then in any regard when it comes to contracting. So to quickly go over our approach, we began this engagement with a literature review. This grounded our work in 3 ways. First, we documented the barriers that historically disadvantaged businesses face in procurement and contracting. Second, we identified regional momentum for inclusive contracting to understand what public agencies and anchor institutions have already developed and implemented in the area. And third, we compiled examples from beyond the region that lend a broader perspective on creative opportunities and emerging practices. In addition to the literature review, throughout our process, we engaged public and private sector procurement professionals in the SCAG region, as well as business support organizations and lenders through a technical advisory committee and focus groups. We invited this target audience for the toolkit as well as advocates for small and diverse businesses to share the challenges that they encounter to diversify contracting and explore ways they've overcome these and the opportunities that they continue to pursue. I want to thank these many partners who lent their time, their expertise during this process. A few have joined us here today and are going to be adding to this conversation. Audrey Chang from Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, Jennifer Kropke from the Port of Long Beach, Maria Grusa from County of Orange, or Orange County, and Gloria Burton from SoCal Edison. So you all are welcome to jump in. I think we're running through this presentation first and then really want to expand and get into the nuance of all of these strategies from your experiences. A quick poll here, what percentage, and I think AV is going to help me run this poll, what percentage of small businesses are owned by Black residents in LA County? What percentage of small businesses do you think are owned by Latino residents in LA County? Okay, I think we can close the poll. And I'll acknowledge we're focused on LA County here. The reason is that the Los Angeles County Small Business Ecosystem Assessment actually has gone into these questions and explored them from a really analytical perspective. We don't have this for the entire SCAG region, but from that small business ecosystem assessment, we know that within LA County alone, Black residents comprise 8% of the county, yet only 2% of small businesses, and Latinos comprise 49% of the population, yet only 11% of small businesses. And these are the kind of disparities that really drive this work for us, right? The SCAG region is a significant economy. The SCAG region combined with San Diego County, if measured as its own nation, would be the 13th largest economy in the entire world. But those statistics we just showed, those percentages of what share of residents versus business owners, different demographic groups make up in this region, is what really drives this work. Because these disparities are true in part as a result of barriers to procurement and contracting opportunities. And we understand these barriers in 3 categories. The first is historical and ongoing discriminatory behavior. This includes explicit discrimination and bias, such as exclusion from affordable lending opportunities. Second are the inherited cumulative results of that discrimination that has diminished the capacity among these businesses. So as a result, diminished financial and social capital from discriminatory behavior over centuries. Third are the inadvertent discriminatory practices that continue to hold back historically disadvantaged businesses. This would be contract requirements or proposal timelines that are difficult or impossible for businesses with more limited capacity to meet. So advancing inclusive contracting in the region needs to be mindful of all of these barriers and ultimately seek to address each of them in this work. And as we do, our region will benefit by increasing access to procurement solicitations and contracts for more businesses. Inclusive contracting encourages healthy competition that lowers costs as businesses compete on price. It also supports a more sustainable supply chain of goods and services as organizations rely less on a small pool of vendors. And regionally, inclusive contracting can bolster the economy. It can increase economic mobility for historically disadvantaged businesses and communities. So I want to stress that what is good for small and diverse businesses in this region is good for the organizations procuring goods and services, and collectively serves the region and its economy together. I am not going to take you through all of the historical context. This was important for us to understand the current contracting landscape by really recognizing all of the longstanding barriers that have made smaller businesses more vulnerable to shocks and stresses. The most important among these that I do want to highlight is Proposition 209. This is the state proposition that explicitly prohibits using race and gender conscious criteria in public spending within California. This is not true in every state, but it is true in the state of California. You cannot use race and gender conscious criteria when you are evaluating proposals, soliciting them in terms of actual award criteria in those evaluations. As we think or consider the broader state and federal climate for affirmative action, ultimately it's actually underscoring the need for race and gender neutral approaches to inclusive contracting. And so I bring this up because when you look to other states or municipalities for examples outside of California, you may find that they're able to be explicit in their approach. It is likely because they do not have a state prohibition to doing so. But looking ahead, more and more, we believe that these race and gender neutral approaches are actually going to be critical, both in California and really beyond. So I think continue to expect this to be the approach that your counterparts are taking elsewhere. Okay, diving in more to the recommendations in our toolkit. Based on interviews with the partners that we mentioned, those in the region, as well as national subject matter experts leading this work, we recommend 5 immediate actions. And I'm hesitant to say it, but if you only look at a few pages in the toolkit, I think these are the ones I ask you to read. This is really meant to be the starting place of how to go about transforming your procurement practices for more inclusive contracting at the organizational level. And so these steps here are: appoint a leader, an inclusive contracting manager, build internal buy-in and knowledge base, collect and review baseline data, conduct an internal audit, and develop an inclusive contracting plan. And I'll break these down a little more, but I know that our partners on this call can also speak to these extremely well from their experiences really doing this work. So in appointing a leader, this is really meant to be the person who ensures accountability, consistency, and commitment to develop strategies and deliver impact. This person should be positioned to maintain a holistic perspective on contracting, champion the work, and build relationships and buy-in across an organization independent of political or administrative change. So as there is turnover above them, they can continue to really be the shepherd of this work. To build internal buy-in and knowledge base, this is about recognizing that to really make a transformation in how an organization works, there's going to be some organizational change in the administrative processes and really culturally in how you think about contracting. And that's going to need participation and commitment within the procurement division and within the broader organization. So as part of this, you want to build a shared understanding of the why and an openness to practicing procurement in new ways. Many procurement teams spoke of interdivisional work groups that developed strategies and supported change together. And they also spoke of the importance of organizational values being embedded with a commitment to inclusive contracting. So maybe adopting a value statement or a set of principles that really can signal internally and set the tone for making inclusive contracting a priority and the changes that come with it. Collecting and reviewing baseline data, we heard over and over again and encountered ourselves how little data is available on procurement outcomes. So we provide in the toolkit suggested metrics that really are meant as a baseline. I encourage you to collect more, but if you only collect any, these are the ones we advise that are fundamental on solicitations, responses, and awards that are intended to really allow organizations to understand where they are today, and then also use these to set priorities. These can be used to inform your priorities by understanding where the greatest opportunity is to make a change, and then monitoring impacts going forward. So as you do implement different strategies or tactics, you have these metrics to really monitor the progress. Conduct an internal audit. So beyond collecting baseline data, organizations should conduct an internal audit to assess procurement practices today, critically question them, and set priorities based on those. So a guiding question to this work should be, is this procurement process reducing competition? Ultimately, an inclusive contracting culture or practice is going to encourage the greatest amount of competition. And so as you review your processes today, as you review your contract requirements, your solicitation language and standards, your evaluation criteria, these are bulleted in the toolkit. A lens that you can use in this evaluation is this reducing competition? And if the answer is yes, then that is an opportunity to revisit that work. Finally, develop an inclusive contracting plan. So informed by the baseline data and audit, backed by a leader and staff buy-in, create a plan to pursue equitable procurement. This should set goals and prioritize strategies to support them. And I'm now going to actually get into what these strategies may be. Let's see. Okay. First, establish a baseline and collect data. Second, streamline procurement processes. Third, develop accessible contracts. Fourth, increase business access to capital. Fifth, grow professional networks. And sixth, build business capacity. We lay out these 6 strategies in the toolkit. For each, there are supporting tactics, and we provide descriptions of the policy, program, or practice accompanied by an articulation of the challenges that they address. To be simple, these are intended to really enable users, anyone reconsidering procurement practices, but especially in the SCAG region, to see the multitude of ways to make contracting more inclusive, so that as you complete those 5 initial steps, these are here as a sort of inventory or menu of tactics that may assist you in addressing the barriers or sources of sort of reduced competition that you identify. I'm going to go into these again, trying to keep this very, very brief so that we can turn it over to our other partners on the call. Establish a baseline and collect data. So for agencies and institutions, particularly those just beginning this work, establishing an understanding of the existing contracting protocols and contracts with historically disadvantaged businesses is going to allow you to evaluate disparities and provide a baseline against which to measure impact. Throughout our engagement, we heard from public agencies, anchor institutions, business groups that the collection, management, and reporting of metrics is key to monitoring progress and ensuring accountability. Tactics here may be creating the actual system itself, identifying which metrics you're monitoring and the tools you're using to do so, the processes for inputting that data, surveying vendors to hear back directly from businesses on their experience, and conducting a disparity study, which I won't go on a tangent. There are mixed perspectives on this. Please feel free to read into the toolkit to understand that this can be used as a tool. It's limited, is all I want to caution. Streamlining procurement processes. Certification and procurement processes are difficult for businesses to navigate, particularly historically disadvantaged businesses with lower capacity. Public agencies and anchor institutions should review and update procurement policies and processes to reduce barriers and, again, increase competition. This could include streamlining processes for certifications, as well as how solicitations are actually accessed, standardizing procedures, allowing businesses to pre-qualify. There's a number of examples from the SCAG region on ways to streamline procurement processes, such as implementing contract forecasting and links to websites you can look at to really see what that may entail. Develop accessible contracts. Contract requirements create barriers inherently. They hinder responses. particularly for historically disadvantaged businesses. For a business that is already strained on capacity, there is no use responding to solicitations if they cannot meet basic contract requirements, such as insurance limits. Larger, more established businesses with greater financial capacity are over and over again more readily able to satisfy these requirements that public agencies and larger institutions set. So I ask that you evaluate the contracts, the base contracts that you have, the templates that you're using, and really question what in there is required for particularly the work that you are contracting, the goods or services. In addition, reconsider contract sizes. Large contract values exceed or exclude smaller businesses that can't demonstrate comparable experience. There are precedents for ways to unbundle contracts, and I know that if you do this work, you are thinking there's efficiency in keeping everything in one contract. There's actually a lot of pushback against that. It is certainly true in some cases, and we are not asking you to break apart all of your construction contracts, but there are a lot of benefits to be gained from unbundling contracts where it is appropriate, and we've provided resources to help you assess those opportunities, as well as advising on where requirements could most easily or fittingly be reduced, and then other strategies to really just support businesses through contracting, like prompt payment programs. These businesses are, as we mentioned, if a historically disadvantaged business has operating with more limited financial capacity, waiting 60 days to get paid for work that's been completed could make or break their business. And larger companies can frankly handle that much better. But there are ways organizations have demonstrated making changes internally to issue more prompt payment. Increase business access to capital. These businesses that we want to increase opportunities for typically have less financial capital. That's a result of historic and ongoing discrimination. But you can use established and growing programs to increase capital and empower these businesses to compete for contracts. In particular, this is really looking at lending programs and opportunities to increase bonding capacity for small businesses. And again, a number of organizations in the region have made incredible progress on both of these fronts. And we have some pretty incredible nonprofit and CDFI leaders within the SCAG region who are making this possible. Grow professional networks. Businesses with smaller professional networks have less exposure to contracting opportunities. You can help actually expand and strengthen networks among businesses and business support organizations by organizing networking events and expanding outreach to community-based organizations to really increase the visibility of procurement opportunities and ensure that those are known. Ultimately, in this networking, and I think this process itself demonstrated it, in the process, businesses can also identify partners. So this is not just about making sure that these businesses know that procurement solicitations are out there, but also supporting them to really build relationships, because maybe they won't respond to certain solicitations, but they're a qualified and should be an eligible sub. By creating opportunities for them to really network with other businesses, their peers, and potential collaborators, they can exchange knowledge, they can ultimately build their own capacity, and they may win work even if not as a prime. And finally, on building business capacity, historically disadvantaged businesses typically operate with smaller teams. So organizations can support business capacity building. This might include providing or offering opportunities to receive feedback for unsuccessful bidders, or providing a resource guide that's targeting small businesses in particular to increase their ability and likelihood to identify and compete for contracting opportunities. I think I will turn it to Jennifer now with Port of Long Beach. Hi, Jennifer. Great to see you. Hopefully you can unmute and take the mic.
Good morning. I'm trying to, for some reason, I'm not able to, here we go. I'm clicking start video, friends, and it is not starting. Okay, there we go. Hi, hey, good morning, friends and colleagues. I'm really so excited to talk to you today, and thank you so much to SCAG for all of the work that you're doing in this space. Really appreciate the leadership that SCAG is showing, and wanted to jump in very briefly to talk a little bit and share what we're trying to do here at the Port of Long Beach in terms of equitable contracting. As mentioned a minute ago, my name is Jennifer Kropke. I'm in a new role here at the Port of Long Beach. I am the Port Officer for DEI and Procurement. And if you're asking what that is, it's basically equitable contracting. It's the same thing that SCAG is trying to do with a fancy title. So without further ado, wanted to share with you some of the things that we're doing here, and they are right out of SCAG's playbook. So I'm really excited to talk about this. Number one, we drafted a value statement. Number two, we created a new webpage on our website that talks about inclusive contracting and why this matters to the Port of Long Beach. Number three, we started offering drop-in office hours for small businesses. Number four, we started encouraging businesses to take advantage of drop-in office hours so that we could go through with them what the process was like to go through an interview, what the process is like to submit for the first time, and as well for folks to be able to navigate our small business enterprise certification. If you have ever seen it and you have all your documents lined up, it's a relatively quick program. But if you've never done the process before and you're kind of not sure and you want a little extra assistance, we are really trying to provide that outreach to folks to make them feel that we really want their business, and all businesses are welcome here, regardless of their level of experience working with the port. In addition to that, internally in the port, we're in the process of standing up a new group called the Central Procurement. And what that seeks to do is really unify all of our procurement processes. We initially used to have all of our divisions procuring separately, which created a lot of different methods for procuring things. And part of what we really like about the streamlined process is we're having one group that's really focused on it with uniformity and really streamlining. What that's lending to is a conversation around changing our solicitation documents to make them a little bit easier to review. What it's also doing is beginning the conversation about how we create expectations for what people can expect for us from the port. And a great example of that is if you have done business with the port and you've contracted with us, you may know that on some contracts we will negotiate with you. But if you are a small business who's never done business with the port, you may say, well, I submitted my proposal, I did an interview, you had my rates, and then you came back and you countered. So why are you doing this? And part of what that is really level setting and really making sure that everyone who is going through our process has the same access to information about what they can expect as those who are more seasoned contracting professionals. Lastly, in addition to that, we are also in the process of really rethinking our small business enterprise program. At the Port of Long Beach, we have historically and currently had unbelievable SBE numbers. 25%, if my recollection is correct, is what the state goal is. We regularly are in the 40 to 50%. So we already know that folks can do small business contracting. So what we're looking to do now is figure out what is the process that makes sense for us to require SBEs as opposed to in a good faith effort to get a small business enterprise on our contracts. And then in addition to that, we are a part of a larger group called the Equity in Infrastructure Project. It is the Port of Long Beach, LA Metro, County of LA, Metropolitan Water District, Caltrans, Port of LA, and we're all really trying to work together collectively to talk about things like, number one, reciprocity. Why is it that small businesses have to get reciprocity at all of our different agencies? Why can we not really think about, even though Port of Long Beach has an SBE program that's ordinance-based, Why can we not kind of come together and find out, hey, what are all of the things respectively as owners that we really need, such that if one person applies somewhere, we can accept that everywhere. In addition to that, we're also really talking about within our agency, understanding the natural push and pull and the natural discomfort that comes with change. And what I mean by that is we are really socializing the idea of having some uncomfortable conversations. And what I mean by that is our status quo has created some unbelievably amazing projects, bridges, new terminals, fully electrified terminal operations. And pretty soon we'll have some new railway projects. The way that we've always done it has resulted in efficiencies, meeting our on-time and schedule requirements. But those same systems have also proven that an unintended consequence can be barriers that are created. So we're having conversations around really thinking about what are the values around our projects, in addition to meeting our deadlines, staying within our scope, staying within our budget. How can we make room for viewing these projects and endeavors as the equity aspects, which can be inconvenient, which can be a little challenging because it's something new, are also something that we should be seeking to strive towards as well. So it's a mind shift. It's a conversation around, hey, we're all in this together. We are all finding our way. We don't know where we are in terms of getting everything done the way we've always done it, but we know where we are in terms of where we want to go. So we are really, really excited about what SCAG is doing, because we welcome partnering with any of our sibling owner agencies, and also are available to collaborate with any of the other agencies. Thank you so much, Anna and Jill. Really, really appreciate the thoughtful dialogue. Really, really appreciate all of the wonderful aspects of the toolkit. Thank you.
Thank you, Jennifer. It's so great to hear everything you're working on, even just in these last couple of months. I want to turn it over to Audrey next, Audrey Chang with Children's Hospital of Los Angeles, if you want to speak to some of your programs. And maybe I will back up these slides. And this seems a little more fitting, but take it away, Audrey.
Great. Thanks, Jill. Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today. I'm Audrey Chang. I'm the Vendor Diversity Program Specialist at Children's Hospital Los Angeles in Supply Chain and Sourcing and Procurement. Our program is very new. I was only onboarded about a year and a half ago. And before that, so AB 962 was implemented for hospitals. So between 2019 and 2021, my director and my manager were the ones completing this report on an annual basis. And then they decided, let's make this a program. Let's turn this bill and take it a step further, because not only is it required by the state, but it's the right thing to do. And we want our suppliers to reflect our patient population. In Los Angeles, as you all know, we are such a diverse community, and the people we work with should reflect that. And my biggest goal for this program is to have children see vendors come in for our farmers market or to drop off things, and they can say, hey, that guy looks like me, or that lady makes food like my grandma, something like that. And so just remembering to keep the bigger picture in mind, that we are trying to serve our children, at least for CHLA. And so our program started off again from ground zero. And so my director introduced me to several of our leaders within the hospital, purely to introduce myself and supplier diversity, because many of them had not heard about it before. And Jill mentioned to build internal buy-in. I think that is just going to be a consistent piece throughout building a supplier diversity program and to implementing supplier diversity in an organization. People are always going to come up and ask you questions, or, there's going to be people who don't know anything about supplier diversity. And so the constant education is going to be very important. And so meeting with those stakeholders really helped a lot. And I built strong partnerships with not only our DEI office, but community and external affairs, as well as our sustainability committee, which sustainability is starting to go hand in hand with supplier diversity. So that's exciting to see. And I've also connected with other pediatric hospitals because it is a very small space, supplier diversity in hospitals. And once you narrow it down to pediatric hospitals, it's even smaller. And so once I connected with other adult hospitals as well, we kind of look towards other industries and seeing what they're doing, because some of these industries, oh my goodness, are like 20 plus years in the making of supplier diversity, which is awesome. And so it's taken me a little bit to get my feet set and kind of map out where we want our program to go. But it's a marathon. This isn't a sprint. And as mentioned, it's very important to not only be patient, but to be transparent with organizations and suppliers. And this is a growing process. And although we have quite a few diverse vendors in motion for different projects, which is exciting, we can always do more. And as the one person tasked with the role of building this program, I love talking to anyone who wants to talk about supplier diversity, and as well as attend events too around the region. Always open to connect and just even have a chat, not necessarily looking for anything, but just connecting with those in the supplier diversity space.
I'm going to shamelessly plug that, because as we convened all of these procurement professionals and all of these people who are really pushing the boundaries of traditional procurement and building this inclusive contracting practice, building these supplier diversity programs, the knowledge exchange was just incredible that we got to be a part of. And so if you are out there hesitating, I encourage you to take folks up on these offers. Next, I want to turn it over to Maria and invite you to speak a little bit about your work with Orange County.
Hi,
If you're
everyone.
on and ready.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. I know I wanted to go over a few different things today. I did just jump on. I'm over here at Capo. I don't know if everyone's familiar with the Capo conference, but I just got out of giving an update, a session on our procurement alliance, which is what I'm going to kind of be telling you about today. 2 years ago, I briefed the board on, I've been in this position for 3 years now, and the board wanted to be briefed on my short-term and long-term goals. And I let them know that one of my long-term goals was to create an alliance, a procurement alliance within our region. They really loved that long-term goal, so they made it my short-term goal pretty quickly. So they had me get up and get moving on that. And we were kicked off about a month later. So we now have a procurement alliance with our county 22 departments and our 34 cities and special districts. So we come together quarterly. We started out just kind of trying to share contracts through a platform called Pavilion. And now we are really using it to drive local engagement with our suppliers. We're having a monthly vendor information day. We invite suppliers to come in. We are kicking off focus groups with suppliers to kind of really engage and connect with them on what the barriers are to doing business with the county. We're doing some surveys, and we also do an annual vendor outreach event where we are directly connecting and focusing on more of the smaller entities, connecting. Last year we had 150 businesses and about 500 attendees. And it's been super successful. We're really growing our first time county and city supplier pool. We've implemented a new system called OpenGov, and we're really going to maximize that and maximize some reporting on just equitable contracting and all of that. So was there anything else you wanted me to go over that I missed besides the alliance? I know we had talked about some other things that I wanted to kind of get you up to speed on.
Maria, I think that is great. So
Okay.
no pressure here to share more.
Okay.
Anna, I'm somewhat looking to you. I think Gloria is going to share next from SoCal Edison, or is that right?
So we have a few more slides on this deck, and then we'll jump right over to Gloria's presentation, and she'll share more about what SoCal Edison has been working on. But thank you so much, Maria, and to all of our guest speakers so far for sharing about all the work you've been doing. We really value hearing about it, and I hope everyone who's been listening is inspired and will take them up for their offer to reach out.
Yeah, I also wanted to say one more thing. Our alliance has been growing. So now the city of Long Beach, city of LA, and a lot of special districts have been joined. So if anyone on the call wants to join, it's open to all. We meet quarterly. You reach out to me, I'll add you to the alliance site and the distribution list. Thank you for inviting me.
Of course, thank you so much, Maria. And we'll be sharing the link to the Alliance at the end of this presentation as well. So right now we'll launch like a really quick poll just to take the pulse of the Zoom room right now. And we want to understand, after hearing about all these awesome examples and strategies of the toolkit, how do you envision yourself actually applying it, if you will? And then the second question, if your agency is already implementing some of these strategies, we'd love to hear what they are. Give it a few more seconds. All right. We're at 66%. So if you can see the results, very exciting that 50% will be building momentum for equitable procurement. And then people are interested in learning more. So we're excited to hear that. And of course, connecting with other organizations in the toolkit. If you want more information, feel free to reach out. And then we're also excited to see that other organizations are already doing this work too. So growing professional networks, developing accessible contracts. So this is great. And we kind of just want to share a few of these resources here. Of course, there's the toolkit itself, and then really amazing resources from LA County, the Regional Alliance Marketplace for Procurement. It's hosted by the City of Los Angeles, but everyone around the region, it's not limited just to LA County or City of LA. It's free to use and open to public and private agencies. I believe the last we heard, LA 28, the Olympics, have already started posting some bids on there. And then we have Compete for LA, which is an opportunity for, it's like a small business directory for a lot of culture and sports events, entertainment type of vendors. And of course, the Harvard Government Performance Lab that we've showcased in our toolkit as well. And then the Orange County Inland Empire Small Business Development Center, they have a center for contracting that also helps small businesses, but they have very useful videos of interviews with other procurement professionals within San Bernardino and Riverside County that they're showing different ways they're approaching equitable procurement. And then, of course, Orange County Procurement Alliance. And the link is all in the chat. Feel free to visit it. And as Maria said, reach out to her if you're interested in joining. And so we can pause here for some Q&A. If anyone has any questions. Alyssa, yes, we will be sharing the slide deck after this session. So with that, I think we can turn it over to Gloria from.
Thank you, Anna. Thank you. Let me go ahead and pull up the deck. Great. Is it visible?
No.
No,
It
not
was
yet.
for a minute, but not yet.
Okay. Let me just, sorry about that, guys. Let me just quickly, do this again. Thank you for being patient, everyone. Great. Is that better?
Looks perfect.
Okay, awesome. Oh, let me just do this one here. Okay, great. Thank you so much to SCAG and all the participants that's on the call.
The slides were up, but now they disappeared again.
They disappeared? Wow. And I tested this prior to, I am so sorry. My apologies. Let's go do this again. You know what? Maybe I'll have the team present it on my behalf. Just gonna appreciate that. Great. Thank you so much. Again, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm really excited to present. And again, thank you to SCAG for the invitation to present during this forum. Just a brief intro about myself, Gloria Burton, Project Manager with Supplier Diversity and Development. I've been with Southern California Edison for 15 years as a project manager. I've worked 10 years in procurement, and then I decided to migrate over to the supplier diversity side, which I truly enjoy. So I've been with them for 5 years. One thing I like to do prior to starting a presentation is safety is very huge at Southern California Edison. And I always like to start off with a safety moment. So one thing that I would like to just share from a safety perspective is we've had a lot of rain within the past few days, and I think there may be some rain coming up soon, but I just want to just encourage everyone, before getting out on the road, make sure you're timing yourself depending on where you're going. Make sure you check the tires, you check the air, make sure you have enough gasoline within your vehicle, because the last thing you want to do is, get stranded somewhere and put yourself in a position where you may be in an unsafe position. I think it's really critical. I'm going to tell a little bit about myself. When I was driving the other day, I had the little indicator that I needed some air in my tire, and I continuously kept driving, and that's not of me, right? And so at some point I said, you know what, Gloria, you're going to make it the situation worse. Make sure you go and get some air. So finally I was able to get some air, because I could have really put myself in a position where that could have been unsafe, could have gotten stranded on the freeway. So just be mindful and again, be aware of your surroundings. If it doesn't look right, if you see something, make sure to say something. Next slide, please. Thank you. So the agenda, I just wanted to share, I'm going to share a little bit about SCE, General Order 156, and some spend highlights, speak a little bit about Edison Supplier Diversity Program, and then some suggested next steps, and then just some summary, and then allow for questions. From the previous speakers, from Jill and the other speakers, I felt very comfortable when I saw your deck because there's some alignment there of some things that I will be sharing with you. Next slide, please. Thank you. So this is just a little bit about Edison. I'm just going to go through this one fairly quickly. Again, we're one of the largest utilities in the U.S. We service about 15 million customers, and our territory is 50,000 square miles, which is fairly huge right here within the yellow area. We service the central, the coastal, and Southern California. And so our supplier diversity program has been around within Edison for 40 years. Next slide, please. So supplier diversity. So being a utility, we are governed by General Order 156. And it's a program under the guidelines of the CPUC. General Order 156 was established in the late 1980s, again, to support diverse-owned businesses seeking a fair portion of the contract spend within California investor-owned utilities. Some of the key components of General Order 156 you'll see here. So the goal that we have to meet with in terms of spend is 22%. Below, you'll see the breakdown of the categories and the percentages that we must achieve. I'm very pleased to say that Edison, we have always exceeded that 22%. The persons with disabilities, they have not yet assigned a goal yet, but I believe that's in the making, maybe within the next few years or so. We are required to file a supplier diversity annual report on March 1st. So our 2023 numbers will be published March 1st. And so I encourage you to visit. I have the link below here once we share the deck right here. It's sce.com/SD. And or you can also go onto the CPUC website under supplier diversity. So each en banc is a public hearing before the commissioners regarding each IOU supplier diversity program. Steve Powell, who is our CEO, testifies on behalf of SCE. Normally, it's all the CEOs within all of the IOUs. So the picture that you'll see right here, with Steve Powell is sitting right there in the front, testifying on behalf of SCE. Next slide, please. Thank you. I wanted to share just some highlights, and this is information from our annual report in 2022. So in 2022, we spent $2.42 billion with diverse business enterprises, which equates to about 35.42%. We do business with 630 plus diverse suppliers, and this includes small and diverse suppliers. And I'm just happy to also share that in terms of the tier 2 subcontracting spend, we've spent $632 million. I'm really, really proud about that. So within our annual report, it includes the accomplishments and sort of the breakdown of the spending efforts with all of the ethnic categories from the previous slide. And so I just welcome you guys to just go ahead and just take a look at it. And just so you could sort of understand, the spend as it relates to, the various areas at SCE. One thing that was brought up by the other speakers is the barriers, right? We know there are barriers that DBEs do face. For example, within Southern California, we can all relate to the wildfire issues, right? And so insurance could be a bit expensive, bonding for construction. And then, as I mentioned earlier, safety, we require, based upon the work that's being performed by our suppliers, that they would register within what's called ISNet World. It sort of records the safety practices of that company. Again, if we have a company that is very huge, making a lot of money, but have a very bad safety record, we will not do business with them, because at the end of the day, we want to make sure that everyone goes home safe, not only the employees, but our subcontractors. And that's really, really a critical component at SCE, is just making sure that everyone goes home safe. And I just wanted to share the little picture that I have here. Investing Our Future was the cover page for our 22 Supply Diversity Annual Report and Annual Plan. So March is almost here, and I'm looking forward to looking at, you guys being able to see our March, our annual report in March. Next slide, please. So this is Supplier diversity program consists of three main components at SCE. Supplier inclusion is huge. We have supplier development, and then we also have supplier outreach. So when we look at the supplier inclusion, what does that mean? That's the activities that promote diverse suppliers within our procurement opportunities. This include leveraging, we have a procurement roadmap strategy that's developed by our procurement team, which is really, really, really great because it identifies all of the sourcing opportunities that are coming up within the next 2 to 3 years. And it allows us that opportunity to start developing that pipeline and inviting DBEs to participate in these sourcing opportunities. Then we have the development component, which is really critical as well, because I think it's important that we provide that training, technical assistance, and capacity building training that's necessary to develop these suppliers so that, you know, they can get the procurement opportunities, be competitive within the process and what have you. Then we also have the supplier outreach component. We partner with about 54 advocacy organizations. And I have something that I want to share with you that I think is really, really key. And we're very proud of this. As part of the relationship we have, when we have procurement opportunities, we reach out to our advocacy organizations and we inform them of these sourcing opportunities, and we'll ask them, hey, is there anyone within your pipeline that you think will be interested in, you know, depending on the sourcing opportunity that's coming up? So they're engaged in that process as well too, so that they can be, you know, part of that pipeline and bid on these opportunities that are coming up. And it's just promoting that awareness. This was brought up again from the previous speakers. It's so critical, and we tell our diverse business enterprises, always ask, if you're not a successful bidder, always ask for a debrief. I think it's to help them be more competitive in the RFX process, but it gives them that insight of where they may need to grow, you know. And so we highly encourage that, and we ask them if they would like, you know, for any of our supplier diversity representatives to be present. We will certainly be there with them to help them along the way. Next slide, please. Great. So I wanted to talk a little bit about suggested next steps. Again, we do not want our diverse business enterprises to fail. So typically what we'll do is we'll ask them to determine what they feel, what the role that's best for them. We have prime contractors, which we categorize as tier 1, and or they could be a subcontractor, tier 2. And as a subcontractor, at some point, they may become a prime contractor, but we want to prepare them towards you know, doing business with Edison. We do have our platform, which is called the Ariba system. So we highly encourage anyone that wants to do business with Edison is to register within our Ariba platform. And luckily, what's really nice is it's only the registration component. And again, this is to receive an RFX. It's just answering 5 key questions. Just 5 key questions and maybe 2 other questions, but it's really, really simple for them to get in there. Some folks may have challenges, but we offer the assistance to walk them through them. Because you have folks that may not be as computer savvy, and so we exercise patience and say, no worries. We can schedule a call and assist them in registering within our Ariba platform. And again, because we're governed by the CPUC General Order 156. These are the 3 certifying agencies that are accepted by SCE, the Supplier Clearinghouse, and so there's the comparative agency. We have diverse suppliers that may have relationships or memberships through some of these national organizations that are listed here: NMSDC, WeBank, NGLCC, and or DisabilityN. So there's a comparative agency. If they are registering within Supplier Clearinghouse is totally free. There's no charge registering within the Supplier Clearinghouse. And so if they're registered and they're in good standing with these national organizations, it'll automatically, there's a few questions they have to answer, and then they would automatically get accepted, and it'll get uploaded into the clearinghouse. And so we leverage the clearinghouse when we're searching as well for diverse suppliers, but Ariba is the main platform because that's what we're encouraging everyone to register. So we do leverage this. And then again, as I indicated, is reaching out to our advocacy organizations. And then the other two certifying agencies that we accept is the SBA 8A only. And then the DGS, and this is specifically for disabled veteran-owned businesses. So those that are registered as a disabled veteran-owned business automatically gets uploaded into the supplier clearinghouse. So as we're conducting our searches within a database, again, they would be listed under there. Next slide, please. Great. So I kind of wanted to wrap up a little bit. And so I think the key component for us at Edison is we want to be able to drive that inclusion, again, through the development, most certainly the contract opportunities, and targeted outreach. Targeted outreach is really, really important because you want them to benefit. We want the small and diverse suppliers to benefit, right? And then we want to be able to bring in those diverse suppliers that live within the communities that we serve because they're bringing jobs, they're bringing innovation. There's a lot that they're bringing to the table. And so as we wrap up, I want to talk a little bit about the procurement strategy roadmap that we have. So in procurement, it identifies all the sourcing, category strategy opportunities that are coming up. This allows us to have a forward-thinking approach, sort of that early engagement, because I don't think it's fair sometimes when there's a sourcing opportunity and then you're trying to bring in these diverse suppliers at the last minute. I don't think that's kind of failing them. So just having that awareness of those sourcing opportunities has been really helpful because in some cases you have specialized niche work. So we want to be able to find those that are qualified that can participate in the RFX opportunities, goals and performance. At Edison, we do have a corporate DBE spend goal. Most of our goals in the past have been in the 40% range. We are going to meet our goal. We are at 38% this year to date. So each of our corporate organizational units are required to submit their total spend and DBE percentage, and then with the hopes that they will meet their goal. And the corporate DB spend goals are based upon historical and forecasted spend that we provide to all of our organizational units to determine what their goal within that next year is going to be. So I think that's really, really important. However, when we look at the goals, we have four main OUs that sort of help drive us meeting. So T&D, which is transmission and distribution, and I'd say we do probably about 75 to 80% spend within our transmission and distribution, underlying construction, vegetation management, construction, substation and construction work. So there's a lot of spend within that area, and it's going to be going up within the next few years. Then we also have a mentorship program, which I think that we're actually relaunching. And one of my colleagues that's on the call right now is sort of leading that effort. And again, that's that aim to sort of, again, increase the pipeline of our diverse suppliers, sort of share some of those best practices with them, and the opportunity to give them feedback and guidance, but it's got to be a two-way conversation. But we want to sort of help and guide them. How can they do business with Southern California Edison? Then we also have what we call our STAR Technical Assistance Training. These are workshops. And so STAR, the acronym for STAR is Strategy Towards Achieving Results. And so these are technical assistance and capacity building workshops to sort of help develop our small, diverse suppliers. And some of those courses, if I could share with you, are like 10 steps to winning an RFP or proposal, building teaming agreements, back office capabilities, so things of that nature, how to prepare for utilities contracts. So we want to be able to sort of help them and guide them in terms of, because doing business with the utilities could be a challenge, for some, but again, we don't want them to fail. And next slide, please. So again, I just want to say thank you. It was truly a pleasure sharing this information with you, and I'm looking forward to collaborating, with some of the folks that are here. Again, if you want to reach out to us, please feel free to send an email to this email address here, and we'd be more than happy to engage in dialogue and see how we can support or leverage. And I'm sure with some of the other speakers, I'm looking forward to leveraging with you as well, because I'm sure there's some things that I can learn from some of the things that you're doing. But again, I just want to say thank you so much for the opportunity. Truly a pleasure. And I think that's it.
Thank you, Gloria, and
Thank
thanks
you.
to everyone who's joined us today, and particularly, Jill for leading us through the discussion of the toolkit, as well as the folks who joined us to talk about their own work. Maybe if 30 seconds, I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up and let you all back into your afternoons. But I think one of as you probably see, one of the things we learned in this engagement is that really here within the Southern California region, we have some of the agencies who are really leading not just the state, but the nation in terms of best practices and really, this inclusive contracting work. And so we work with jurisdictions and stakeholders who are, at all stages of implementation. And, the toolkit is really meant to be a roadmap for anyone to get on at any point, whether you're one of the leaders in this area or someone, a jurisdiction or institution who's just starting out to work. And we're really grateful for the the expertise that we received, and we're able to engage with all the folks, including Gloria, who just shared the great work that SoCal Edison is doing. And at the outset, I know we did a little poll to see who was on the call, and I know there's folks who are directly working in procurement. We have a lot of project managers, and we have some folks who maybe aren't necessarily engaging with procurement in their day-to-day, but just to really kind of drive home why this is important is, ultimately, as we create opportunities, in jurisdictions, cities, counties, anchor institutions, hospitals, museums, those kinds of things are really large buyers. And a lot of funds are being spent within the region. And, those are opportunities that when small businesses can engage with those contracts and thrive, we're ultimately, creating a more inclusive and resilient and prosperous region, and more inclusive and resilient and prosperous communities. And so we thank you all for the work that you do. And to learn more about the toolkit, please visit the SCAG website, as well as to learn about other work that SCAG is leading in the inclusive economic recovery strategy. So thanks again.